Anyway, so our final story here. You may remember a few months ago I made a video about the Zootopia lawsuit. And that's been going back and forth for some time. The judge required the plaintiff to file an amended complaint, and then Disney, Pixar, I think it is. Disney filed a motion to dismiss, and this is the order granting that motion to dismiss. Now, this is 40 pages long, and I don't intend to go on for 40 pages. What I am going to do is cover the beginning part where the judge summarizes what was different about the two, and I think you'll see Zootopia by Disney and Zootopia by Espionage Productions and Gary Goldman, they were two completely different things. In this action, Espionage, the solely owned corporation of well-known Hollywood writer-director-producer Gary Goldman, seeks to prove that Disney stole the idea for its hit animated film Zootopia from Goldman. In support of its claims, plaintiff alleges that Goldman twice shared a synopsis and treatment for the movie Lohne, along with his ideas and artwork for a larger franchise called Zootopia, with Disney agents and executives. The parties presently dispute only whether Goldman's materials are sufficiently similar to the Disney film to support an action for copyright infringement. In other words, the court assumes that Disney had the opportunity to copy Goldman's work. The question is whether Disney copied original protectable elements of Goldman's work. So once again, we're only looking for original protectable elements. The court has now had the opportunity to review Goldman's work and compare it to Disney's Zootopia. Applying the extrinsic portion of the Ninth Circuit's substantial similarity test, the court concludes that the plots, themes, dialogue, moods, settings, pace, characters, and sequence of events in Zootopia and Goldman's work are not sufficiently similar for Espionage to proceed beyond the extrinsic portion of the test. Espionage is thus not entitled to have a jury determine whether the works are intrinsically similar. Disney's motion is granted without leave to amend, and Espionage's state law claims are dismissed without prejudice. Espionage's copyright complaint is dismissed. Background. On March 21st, Espionage filed its original 36-page complaint alleging that through its creation and distribution of Zootopia, Disney had expropriated the original protectable elements of Lohne, the creation of Gary Goldman, Espionage's founder, CEO, and shareholder. Espionage asserted claims of copyright infringement, breach of implied contract, breach of confidence, violation of California's unfair competition law, California Business and Professional Code. On July 11th, the court granted Disney's motion to dismiss the complaint, dismissing Espionage's copyright infringement claim with leave to amend. The court dismissed the complaint because Espionage had failed to include any clear summary of the Lohne plot, dialogue, themes, and so on. The court instructed Espionage to cure these deficiencies either by providing a clear and detailed description of the allegedly infringing works or by attaching them, at which point the court will again consider whether the works are substantially similar. On August 3rd, Espionage filed a 67-page first amended complaint, annexed to which are 10 exhibits including character descriptions, illustrations, synopses, and treatment. On August 28th, Disney filed its present motion to dismiss. For the same reasons noted in its previous order, the court takes judicial notice of the animated motion picture Zootopia, a DVD copy of which has been provided and which the court has viewed. Goldman's contemplated Zootopia franchise. Espionage and Goldman. Espionage is a California corporation. Goldman has been its CEO, director, employee, shareholder. Goldman has a long, successful career in film, has worked in one capacity or another on a number of well-known motion pictures, including Total Recall, Basic Instinct, Minority Report. Between 2000 and 2009, Goldman developed a franchise for motion pictures, television programs, and derivative products he called Zootopia. The franchise is based on an animated cartoon world that metaphorically explores life in America through the fictional setting of a diverse, modern, and civilized society of anthropomorphic animals. The Looney synopsis. Goldman wrote a synopsis and treatment of the first segment of a proposed franchise, a live-action film called Lohne, that he registered with the Writers Guild of America on August 17, 2000. The Looney synopsis tells the story of Zeke Emery, a brilliant, eccentric, unstable, hyperactive, little bit crazy cartoon genius who is the creator of the animated television show entitled Zootopia, with characters representing aspects of his personality. Goldman imagined that Zeke would be played by Jim Carrey or Robin Williams or Eddie Murphy, a comedy virtuoso. The character Zeke, who grew up in either Kansas or Nebraska, was bullied by a star football player named Eddie Uglisich, a.k.a. Uglisich, who started out drawing cartoons for his college paper. He got popular, and a movie studio bought his cartoon strip and brought him out to Hollywood and built a show out of it, and it became a worldwide sensation like The Simpsons, but with the zaniness and energy level of Looney Tunes. The success goes to Zeke's head. He's gone from being a nice, sweet, sensitive guy to being universally known as one of the biggest egomaniacs in Hollywood. He's been married 5 times, always to gorgeous starlets or models. He lives in a giant gauche mountain filled with gaudy furniture. He has an English butler, drives a Ferrari. He acts like a tyrant. Zeke arrives at the studio to attend a dubbing session. This is when the audience becomes acquainted with Zeke's cartoon Zootopia. The premise of Zeke's Zootopia is a zoo where every morning the animals punch in and go to work, and at closing time they punch out and go home. It's a metaphor for life and for America. The Zootopia cast consists of 7 high school kid animals: Roscoe a hyena, Hugo an aardvark, Monty a sloth, Fuzz a koala, a bear that is alternately referred to as Grizz or Cody, Cha-Cha a cheetah, and Mimi a squirrel. 2 adult animals, Max an ibex, Ms. Quilty an ostrich, and a human zookeeper named Dodo, whose face the audience never sees. These animal characters, which appear to have been more fully developed by Golden at some other time, are discussed in more detail below. Cutting back to non-animation live action, Zeke is sitting with his writing animation voiceover partner Robin, Renee Zellweger, imagined as Renee Zellweger. Zeke and Robin have known each other since junior high school, dated, were engaged to be married when he made the big studio deal. Zeke broke off the engagement because the success went to his head, but they continue to work together. Robin is the only person who can stand up to Zeke, only person he listens to. Robin and Zeke receive a visit from Oog, Zeke's high school tormentor, who is in town with his daughter, and Robin leaves with Oog and his daughter to show them the studio. Zeke's boss, Leon, asks, or is one of the few people who's a bigger asshole than Zeke, and enters the scene and becomes angry over Zeke's refusal to endorse some unspecified product that has the capacity to poison the bodies and souls and minds of children. This is when the audience is meant to realize that Zeke is maybe not such a bad guy. The next day, Leon fires Zeke and replaces him with Norman, a pimple-faced Jewish adolescent. Zeke is dragged out of the building by security guards. While he is driving away erratically in his Ferrari, he sees and hears one of the animal characters from his cartoon Zootopia show, a precursor to the delusions he will soon experience. Zeke's life then begins to fall into disarray. His current wife, Pamela Anderson, leaves with the personal trainer. Lawsuits are filed. Nobody shows up to a charity event he hosts. His butler disrespects him. His mansion is repossessed. He is arrested for breaking into his wealthy friend's home. All the while, he is periodically visited by his animal characters from Zootopia. His mother, who appears to Zeke as Ms. Quilty the ostrich, shows up to bail him out and then flies him back to Topeka, where his dad picks him up from the airport and berates Zeke for not getting a law degree. Zeke moves back into his childhood home, where he relives the adolescent nightmare that expired his creative vision in the first place. Back in Topeka, Zeke is continuously visited by his cartoon characters. He learns that Robin and Oog are now engaged, which prompts the realization that he is still in love with Robin. He is harassed by cartoon characters while driving, gets into a terrible accident. He ends up in the hospital, in an insane asylum. His psychiatrist helps him realize that his 4 cartoon characters are all around him, and that he has to master them, integrate them. He is on the rebound. Ultimately, he shows up at Robin and Oog's wedding. Robin calls off the wedding, and Zeke and Robin kiss and get together. And then the judge goes over the characters. Mimi, a squirrel, the only wild animal on the show. She is cute, curvaceous, sexy squirrel, lives in a tree in the zoo, can come and go as she pleases. Fuzz, a koala main character, the leader of the gang. He looks cute, but he's a little Napoleon. Hugo, an aardvark, a strong, athletic, but dorky guy who is obsessed with self-improvement. Roscoe, a hyena, a prankster, a jolly guy, out for a good time. Monty, a sloth, a highly educated and cultured epicure who is monumentally lazy. Cody, Grizz, a bear. He takes his leadership and superiority for granted. Cha-Cha, a cheetah, gorgeous sex goddess, cheerleader. Miss Quilty, very prissy and vain, but not too attractive. Max, an ibex, sporty, not too bright, runs the bar. So, does that sound like Zootopia yet? Let's go over what Zootopia sounds like. At some time after Goldman's 2009 meeting with Taylor, Disney began to develop the animated motion picture that ultimately became Zootopia. Zootopia takes place in a world populated entirely by anthropomorphic animals. The plot is as follows. Spoiler alert. Judy Hopps, a young adult rabbit, lives in Bunnyboro, a rural carrot farming community. Judy dreams of becoming a police officer in Zootopia, a nearby metropolis. Judy's parents, also rabbits, do not discourage her from being a police officer, but worry the job is dangerous. Judy moves to Zootopia, where she graduates from Police Academy. Despite her obvious pluck and lofty ambitions, Chief Bogo the Buffalo assigns her to parking duty. Judy is clearly disappointed, but puts on a happy face, determined to be the best parking enforcer she can be. While writing tickets, she sees Nick Wilde and Finnick, a couple of con artist foxes. They are trying to buy a popsicle at an ice cream shop for elephants. The elephant proprietor refuses to serve them. He does not care for foxes. Judy intervenes, buys the popsicle, but soon after sees Nick selling small chunks of the giant popsicle to others. She realizes that Nick is a hustler. The next day, she abandons her parking duty post to arrest Duke Weaslington, a street tough weasel who stole a bag of crocus bulbs. Back at the station, Chief Bogo is in the middle of reprimanding her for abandoning her post. And a citizen of Zootopia bursts into Bogo's office and asks for help finding her husband Emmett, one of several predators who have recently gone missing. Much to Bogo's chagrin, Judy volunteers. Bogo gives her 48 hours to solve the case. After realizing that Nick was present the last time Emeric Otterton was seen, Judy blackmails Nick by recording his admission of tax evasion on her carrot pen recorder into helping her find him. Judy and Nick learn from Emmett Otterton that he had been in a limousine owned by Mr. Big, an Arctic shrew and organized crime boss, when he went savage and attacked the chauffeur, a panther named Manchus. Judy and Nick visit Manchus at his home, and he tells them that Otterton said something about night howlers just before he was attacked. Moments later, Manchus himself turns savage and chases Judy and Nick through a jungle scene. Judy saves Nick by trapping Manchus and calls the police department for backup. By the time other police arrive, Manchus has disappeared. Chief Bogo demands Judy's resignation, but Nick reminds Bogo that she still has another 10 hours to solve the mystery. On the way back to downtown Zootopia, Nick tells Judy that he was bullied as a child because his peers perceived him as untrustworthy just because he was a fox. Nick, having been revealed that even a fox can be vulnerable, Judy and Nick, Jick and Nudie. Judy and Nick are now quite obviously friends. Judy and Nick go to City Hall and meet with Assistant Mayor Bellwether, a sheep, who gives them access to the city's traffic cameras. They review the footage and see that Manchas was captured by wolves. Maybe these are the night howlers. Judy and Nick locate Manchus and other predators at the Cliffside Asylum and learn that the mayor, Leondor Lionheart, a lion, had held them captive so that a scientist could try to determine the cause of their savage behavior. Mayor Lionheart and others are arrested for false imprisonment. After Mayor Lionheart's arrest, Judy is treated as a hero. Judy asks Nick to join the police department. During a press conference, Judy observes that all the missing animals were predators and suggests that there may be biological reasons for them turning savage. This deeply upsets Nick, himself a predator, who declines Judy's offer to join the police force and storms off. Judy's comments also cause tension between predators and prey. Judy, feeling guilty about her comments, resigns. She returns to Bunnyboro. Back home in Bunnyboro, she learns that night howlers are not wolves, but plants that have psychotropic effects. She races back to Zootopia. Once in Zootopia, Judy and Nick reunite, and they confront Duke Weaslington about the bag of crocus bulbs that had caught Weaslington stealing. told them that he gave the bulbs to Doug Ramsey's. Judy and Nick find Doug manufacturing the Night Howler serum. They discover Doug has been shooting predators with darts, which is causing them to go savage. A sample of the Night Howler serum in hand, Judy and Nick are confronted by Assistant Mayor Bellwether. Bellwether seizes the serum, admits that she is the mastermind against a plot to turn prey against predators, and sees the power from Mayor Lionheart. While Judy and Nick are trapped in a diorama of some sort, Bellwether shoots Nick with the serum so he'll turn savage and kill Judy. She calls the police to arrest Nick. Bellwether didn't realize that Nick and Judy had replaced the serum pellets. Once the police arrive, Judy pulls out her carrot pen recorder and replays Bellwether's confession, which Judy had surreptitiously recorded. Her plot to seize power exposed, Bellwether is arrested. The animals that were thought to have turned savage are cured, and predators and prey trust each other once again. Judy returns to police force, and she becomes Zootopia's first fox. Becoming Zootopia's first. Oh, Nick graduates from Police Academy, becoming Zootopia's first fox cop and Judy's partner. So, even if we were to just stop there, it's pretty freaking obvious that Zootopia and Espionage's Lohne are two different things, right? I mean, you got Zeke, who's like this jerk who's making a cartoon, but the movie's a live action thing, and then you've got Judy, who wants to come and be a police officer, and these things are somehow substantially similar. Like we said, just because you had access does not mean that it's automatically copyright infringement. To prevail on a... Okay, well, I guess that's... Okay, are we back? We're back. To prevail on a copyright infringement claim, a plaintiff must demonstrate 1. Ownership of a valid copyright, and 2. Copying of constituent elements that are of the original. The substantial similarity test contains, let's back up here, contains an extrinsic and an intrinsic component. A finding of substantial similarity under the extrinsic component is necessary or prerequisite to considering the intrinsic component, which is expressly reserved for the jury. Great. Yeah, so that what happened there was one of my hard drives decided to spin up. And when Windows spins up a hard drive, it just stops everything else for some reason. Sorry that we're out of sync. Nothing I can do about that now. I can take myself off of the screen. The substantial similarity test contains an extrinsic and an intrinsic element. A finding of substantial similarity under the extrinsic component is a necessary prerequisite to considering the intrinsic component, which is expressly reserved for the jury. A failure to satisfy the extrinsic component on a motion to dismiss thus requires judgment for the defendant as a matter of law. The Ninth Circuit explained the components of the extrinsic component of the test. Extrinsic analysis is objective in nature. It depends not on the responses of the trier of fact, but on specific criteria which can be listed and analyzed. The extrinsic test focuses on articulable similarities between the plot, themes, dialogue, mood, settings, pace, characters, and sequence of event. As the Ninth Circuit has emphasized, the court must take care to inquire only whether the protectable elements standing alone are substantially similar, and thus must filter out and disregard non-protectable elements. While the question of whether the alleged infringing work is sufficiently similar to the alleged infringed work to give rise to liability for infringement is often resolved on summary judgment or by a jury, there is no logical reason to delay the inevitable when the court already has the alleged infringed and infringing works before it on a motion to dismiss. And the court then goes on to compare the plot and everything, the characters and everything, and find that they are not substantially similar.